You were a lord, but now you get to be a thief. And I'm going to show you how. Shoot me. Please. You have to be a warrior. Fast as you can. Faster.
What are you doing to my coat?
Okay.
When do I actually get to, steal?
Hello, listeners, and welcome to episode 20 of the DNA Film Wars podcast. Today we are discussing the film of the year, Robin Hood. I say that sarcastically. This film is directed by Otto Bathurst, written by Ben Chandler and David James Kelly, starring Taron Egerton, Jamie Foxx, Ben Mendelsohn, and Hewson.
Yes.
It's a weird name.
Hewson.
Anyway, so
Let's get into it.
Let's start with my initial thoughts.
Sure, go for
Because
it.
I want to go first this time.
Okay.
This movie's bad.
Oh yeah.
Not gonna lie to our listeners.
Oh yeah.
It's pretty bad.
She's rough.
But it is fast paced, and I can say that at some points during the movie I was sort of entertained, maybe. But what about you?
Yeah, no, this movie's bad.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's bad. It's probably about as bad as people are saying.
Yeah.
I do like your point about it being fast paced.
I mean, this movie is in a perpetual state of action.
Except for some of the.
There's like two scenes maybe that aren't action.
After like the very opening, maybe 20 minutes after that, there's like a small little portion where it's not. It's fast paced for the majority of the movie, minus very minute amounts of time, and those times where it's not actually dragged because the story is very poorly written. But we'll get into that. And yes, this movie is somewhat entertaining, and I'll tell you why it's somewhat entertaining. Because it's comedically bad.
Yes.
For the most part of the movie. People in this movie act so over the top, it's crazy. Ben Mendelsohn literally shouts the entire movie.
I mean, he shouts every movie, but yeah.
So, yeah, it's bad.
Alright, well, let's move on to story.
Go for it.
I mean, it's just it's super generic. I mean, it's
a Robin Hood movie.
It's super generic. I'm not very well versed in Robin Hood lore. I've actually never watched a Robin movie from beginning to end until now. So I don't know how faithful they are to the classic story. Yeah, Neil and I can talk a little bit more about that later. So this movie starts out with my biggest pet peeve and the laziest form of storytelling. Narration.
Which narration is okay in certain aspects.
If it's Morgan Freeman doing it, I can let it pass. But
you were okay with it in The Grinch.
Well, yeah, but that's a kid's cartoon. It's different. And that rhymed, so it made it fun. Yeah, and I don't know who plays Firetech in this movie. What's the guy's name?
It should have been Russell Brand because it's basically who it was.
Yeah, he was being Russell Brand as Firetech. Anyway, he's telling the story of Robin Hood, and he's like, "This is not the story you know." He's like, "This is no bedtime story," and I'm like, "You're right, because bedtime stories are entertaining." It's stupid and painfully, awkwardly stupid. And then we get into the movie, and basically the plot, what little plot there is. Robin, known as Rob in this movie.
Rob of Locksley.
Falls in love with Marianne.
Marion.
Then he is sent off to war by the evil sheriff Ben Mendelsohn. And he has a bad experience at war. Cuts off, he fights Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx gets his hand cut off. But he tries to save Jamie Foxx's son, so Jamie Foxx stows aboard the ship to meet him or something.
And recruit him?
Yeah, sure.
We'll go with that.
And then we go back, and of course, Marion has a new boyfriend whose name is Will.
Will Scarlet.
Mm-hmm. Jamie Foxx tells Robin, or I guess John tells Robin, that they're going to steal from the rich and give it to the poor. Although I don't see much stealing from the rich and giving it to the poor in this movie. It's more like, steal from the rich and give it to my girlfriend. But, and then steal from the rich and then give it back to the rich. And also give some to my girlfriend. Is essentially what he's doing here. Anyway, he devises a scheme. He dresses as Robin Hood. And he turns into a superhero. like a Dark Knight character. Basically turns into the Dark Knight. Instead of drawing little bat symbols on the walls,
they nail hoods to
they
places.
nail hoods. He even has to fight Two-Face in the sequel.
You're right. This movie didn't make enough money to earn a sequel.
Yeah. Anyway, he figures out this plot by Ben Mendelsohn and the Cardinal to give money. I'm not really sure. They're giving money to the Arabs so that the Arabs will help them overthrow the King of England or something like that. Then they killed Ben Mendelsohn at the end of the movie. And basically that's it. Anyway, one problem I find with this movie is that their themes and messages they're trying to deliver are very muddled and very mixed. Like, at times, I feel like they're trying to say that religion is bad, and then at times they're trying to say religion is good. I was like, okay. And then at times, like, maybe I'm reading too much into this. Maybe they had no messages and they were just throwing stuff against the wall. At times they were like, wealth redistribution is bad because, like, they are saying that. Actually, I guess they don't say. I guess with redistribution is like the main theme of this movie.
If you can say it has a theme.
But like they're fighting against their own message here because they're like saying taxation is bad, but taxation is the main form of is how you do wealth redistribution. But I guess I don't know.
Let's steer away from that.
That's getting political.
You're getting way too deep into a very bad movie.
Yeah, I don't think they thought that much about it. They just don't really have a good underlying theme going for this movie that they're trying to like keep clear. The characters are poorly written. I don't care about any of these characters at all. Their motivations are like as clear as mud. That's being kind. Like they really have no motivations. Like at one point, or Robin Hood's main motivation for like, okay, let me think about this. He wants to come back home to his girlfriend. And at one point, like, towards the end of the movie, he's like, my only motivation for doing all this was for you. And then she's like, but I don't believe that. And I'm like, I don't believe in your relationship, so...
Anyway, just keep going.
I don't know. I'm struggling to come up with rhyme or reason for this movie. Overall, the story is terrible. I don't know who wrote this script. Actually, I do. We just said it.
Ben Chandler and David James Kelly.
I don't think they devoted much time. They must have wrote this up in about 2 days, and it's bad. Overall, I'm going to give this story 1.5 stars.
That's kind.
One star because I don't like giving things 0 stars, and extra half a star for effort.
Okay, I guess. So, I agree with you on this story. It is very poorly written. When they wrote the script, I don't know what they were doing.
Drugs.
Probably.
Actually, no. Drugs would make you more creative. They're doing alcohol.
This movie was probably busted out in about 30 minutes.
Like, guys, we need a movie, like, right now. We're going to lose the rights to our Robin Hood if we don't pump out a movie right now.
The story is highly generic. I mean, it's your classic Robin Hood story, I guess, to a degree.
Classic would infer that it's good, like other Robin Hood stories.
Not necessarily. But underlying, this movie is terrible. On the outside, it's, your classic stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, but then we have to throw
No, because they never give any... That's what I'm saying. Hold on. They never give any money to the poor in this movie.
Yes, they do. One scene.
Okay.
It's, but, I mean, after the surface level, I mean, we have the main story is... The main surface... after you scratch that main surface of, the classic Robin Hood story, you have all these, like, underlying subplots, and the main one is a romance between Robin and Marion that they can't have.
Love triangle.
And it's poorly written. There is, like, no chemistry between these two characters. I don't know if it was because it was written that way or these two actors just don't care for each other or what the problem is.
I think they realized, why are we in this movie?
That's rough. We have the war story that I've never seen really a whole lot in another Robin Hood story. I mean, he kind of is like a soldier, but he's never, like... I don't remember in any other Robin Hood movies him, like, actually, like, seriously, like, being drafted into an army and being sent off to war for years upon years.
4 years.
Years upon years.
4 years.
And then fighting, almost dying, and then being sent home. I don't remember that, really, in any other Robin Hood story. So I don't understand. And then there's also like the political subplot.
Undertones or overtones?
Subplot, overtones, undertones, whatever you want to call them. We have our antagonist, who we find out is, well, we don't find out. We know one of the antagonists is Ben Mendelsohn's character, who's the Sheriff of Nottingham, as well as a cardinal of the Catholic Church.
Yeah, yep.
He is
he's a corrupt old man.
They want to throw over the King of England. Overthrow. They want to overthrow the King of England. And then Marion's new man that she has replaced Rob with, because she was told that he was dead and you just got to move on. So she found herself a new man, and he wants to be in power.
Yep.
So yeah, and we find out at the end that he becomes the Sheriff of Nottingham, and he's basically Two-Face.
He's Two-Face. It's literally one side of his face.
One side of his face is burnt. So yeah, the story is rough. The characters are very poorly written, like you said. You don't really care about any of these characters. I mean, I guess you could kind of, to a degree, you can maybe care about Rob, because he is Taron Egerton. What he's given, he is somewhat charismatic. I guess is slightly charismatic as an actor in this movie in particular. I've enjoyed him in other stuff, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But I mean, they're poorly written. You don't really care about them. I couldn't tell you half of anyone's name. I guess the main characters that you really need to know, I guess I know their names, but I mean, that's because I've seen all the other movies. You just don't care. The character motivations in this movie are very, very paper thin. John's motivation, his only motivation, I think they actually came out and said, is he wants to basically have justice for the English army killing his son, but really the English army is the bad guy or the good guy, because I don't even know. I'm so confused at this point with this movie. And then Rob's motivation apparently is to win back his lady. So that's, because women, you just, if you love someone, steal for them. So I don't know. It's rough. I'll give it 2 stars though, because it's slightly entertaining at points.
So I have to go back for just a second, because I totally forgot one of the main points I was going to mention, speaking of mixed messages. Are the good guys in this movie supposed to be good guys? Because, first of all, Robin Hood kills a lot of people in this movie. And I don't know if all of them are really bad. A lot of them are soldiers, which are, just kind of following in the sheriff's orders. Of course, they make them out to be jerks. And then at the one that really bugged me was when he broke into the treasury or whatever, all those people counting money. Were they really bad people? Because he just slaughtered them, straight up. And then, at the end, I'm like, okay, so are they really, good for the commoners? Because basically they tell all the commoners to go get themselves killed fighting Ben Mendelsohn's army while they steal the money. And then, they never give any of the money back to the commoners, I guess.
A lot of them make it out, though, at the end. I mean, they're all grouped together at the very end. Remember, they start walking off, and he's like, it's good to see all you guys. They're all carrying big old sacks of
after
coins.
They all got the crap beat out of them by Ben Mendelsohn's army. And then, I don't know, Jamie Foxx is... they take all this money, and he's like... because I guess most of it is their excuse is not going to the war effort. But what little is going to the war effort is now not going to the war effort. So now all the soldiers out fighting the Crusades, which I know we're not supposed to really like them.
Well, the point is that the money wasn't going to the war effort.
But what little was is now not going.
None of it was going to the war effort.
I think a little bit of it was.
No, they were giving it all to the Arabian army.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know.
All of it. All of it was going to the Arabian
All of
army.
it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of it? I don't know if they said all of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
all of it was going to the Arabian
All of
army.
it was.
That was why he was collecting all this money.
And
So
I
he
don't
could
really
finance
understand,
them.
what's the Arabian army going to do when they help Ben Mendelsohn overthrow the king? Are they just going to be like, okay, well, we overthrew the king. Here you go. Have at it. I mean,
Anyway, let's get away from the story. We already said it's bad.
okay.
We know it's bad.
Yeah,
It is a bad movie.
Okay, acting.
Acting.
So, I actually think Taron Egerton, considering what he was given to do, I don't hate him in this movie. I think he's okay.
I like Taron Egerton.
Jamie Foxx is way over the top, but at least he's charismatic, right? Ben Mendelsohn plays the exact same character he played in Rogue One and in Ready Player One, so, I mean, it's Ben Mendelsohn. But everybody is terrible. Everybody else is terrible, and the script is just bringing everybody down. Oh, yeah, the guy playing Friar Tuck is not good.
Oh,
He's the quote-unquote comedic relief, I guess, but he's not funny.
Everyone in this movie, I think, is comedic relief to me. No one was
Ben
serious.
Mendelsohn is the funniest man in this movie, and it's not on purpose. I want his blood running in the streets. I want the dogs licking it from the ground. I don't know exactly what he says. It is funny.
Who cares?
So acting, I'll be kind again. I'll give it 2 stars.
Acting.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Taron Egerton, I like Taron Egerton. I thought he was really good in the Kingsman movies. I thoroughly enjoy him in those. This movie, I mean, he's slightly charismatic to a degree. He does the best with what he's given. Probably should have been cast in this role. I mean, I don't really see him as a Robin Hood kind of guy, really. He's okay, though. I mean, he does a decent job, I guess, for what he's given. I mean, it's not a good performance. I mean, none of the performances in this movie are good, even though, I mean, our main 3 characters are actually pretty decent actors. I mean, Taron Egerton's a pretty decent actor. Jamie Foxx is a pretty decent actor. Ben Mendelsohn is passable. So, I mean, I'd probably say that the writing and the direction of this movie is the real reason most of these performances are bad. But Jamie Foxx in this movie is over the top. His character is he runs. He doesn't really run around. I guess he kind of runs around with Robin most of the movie for some odd reason, and he's makes weird faces like, we have to get this done. I'm like, okay. Obviously you can't see my face, but I just made a weird face because that's how he says it in the movie.
Until we start videoing our episodes.
Yay! Ben Mendelsohn in this movie. You talk about over the top. This man is way with I have in my notes 6 Y's over the top. He literally shouts everything in this movie. I think there's a handful of scenes, and I mean 2 scenes in this entire movie that he is in that he does not shout every line he is given. It's bad.
Or whisper. When he's not shouting, he's whispering. Never mind, I'm not gonna.
I can't even. It's so bad. His acting is way over the top. Literally. I mean, if I could quote some lines, what are some more lines? The very end of the movie. Okay, so spoiler. Ben Mendelsohn dies at the end because obviously you have to kill the sheriff of Nottingham because he's the bad guy.
Yeah, because Robin Hood literally kills everybody in this movie.
So at the very end of the movie, he literally shouts, "I'm the sheriff of Nottingham," and Robin goes, "Not anymore," and shoots this rope, and he goes flying up in the air and hangs his neck.
A gun motion. He shoots it with an.
He didn't have an arrow. He had a crossbow.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Why did he go?
It's closer to a gun.
Okay.
It's close
So
enough.
he just went.
Basically,
It's
might as well have been a gun.
Okay.
I mean, this movie. Some of the parts of this movie look really modern. Really modern. But everyone else is pretty bad. Eve Hewson, she is pretty dull, dry in this movie. Does not give a very good performance. I do not buy her and Taron Egerton being a couple at all. 0 whatsoever. I don't know what the problem is. If that's the writing's fault that their chemistry is so bad, or if their actual chemistry together is bad, or what the problem is. Her chemistry with Jamie Dornan as Will is terrible too. Overall, I mean, everyone's pretty bad in this movie, but I'll be nice and give it 2 stars.
So the hodgepodge.
Hodgepodge. This one's gonna be a rough one, boys.
Editing is bad. Is that rapid cut
bad?
Editing? And then they do the super fast pace and the slow mo as he's pulling the
A la
bow
300?
string back. Yeah, this is way less entertaining. And the way this movie, and half the time I can't tell what's going on.
Oh, anytime there is any sort of close quarter combat or arrows flying around, I don't know what the hell's happening.
Direction is bad, like we talked about. I mean, nothing good going on there. I actually think the cinematography, if you take the bad editing away, isn't that bad. Like some of the village shots of the village and the
crane shots of flying way up over the city or whatever.
Yeah, and of the fight scenes, the way they or the mine area and stuff isn't terrible, but the editing just makes it look bad. And then and actually I did the kind of the cinematography when they were in the in Arabia or whatever. I mean, that kind of looked pretty neat the way they had that set up.
Not bad.
Soundtrack is not good. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's not. It's more modern than it should be, for one thing. More modern sounding, which everything in this movie is. And it's just not memorable. And then costuming is bad. Half the time it looks like they just showed up to the set in their street clothes.
And they're like, eh.
They're like, we don't got time to change. Gotta get this movie out quick, boys. Effects are hit and miss. At times the CGI looked passable. At times it looked really bad. Like there's this once, every time they tried to CGI a horse, it looked bad. Like every CGI horse in this movie looked really bad. The explosions looked okay. I mean, they were way over the top, but they looked okay for the most part. So with that being said, for my hodgepodge section, I'll give it 1.5 star. Mostly, it's so low just because the editing is so bad.
Yeah, we're all on the same page. The editing in this movie is god-awful. This is some of the worst editing I've seen in a movie this year, probably behind Mile 22.
I was going to say, whatever that Mark Wahlberg movie was.
I think some of the editing in this is worse than that.
Yeah, because at least in Mile 22 they didn't do that super slow, speed up, super slow.
I mean, it's like so quick cut. Anytime there's any sort of action on screen that has to do with him firing arrows or close quarters combat or like pretty much any sort of like legitimate action is so quick cut and jumpy. I can't tell what's happening. And then it does do a whole lot of that, full speed and then slow motion. Finish your movement, and then you got to finish the movement really fast, like that speed up through the motion kind of thing. It's really bad. It does not work in this movie, and I don't know why they did it. I guess to pull off the superhero vibe of Robin in this movie, because he's a superhero in this movie.
Yeah, he's superhuman. He defies physics.
He's a superhero in this movie. It doesn't make any sense. The direction of this movie is rough. I would probably attribute the reason that some of the acting is so bad, not just because of the story, but this director just did not draw good performances from any of his actors. Because some of these people are highly talented, and it was... I don't feel like he got good performances out of anyone, which is really bad when you have the talent that you have on your set. Mm-hmm. The color choice in this film, his color choices are really odd at times. The majority of this movie is this dull, drab, gray color. And it's just like gloomy and dark. And then every once in a while you get semi-brightish scenes.
At the end of the green forest and everything is really bright.
Even when they're in Arabia, which is like a sandy environment, it's kind of like a dull, gray, drab, like a drab gray color. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. There are a couple scenes where they're in a church where it's got this really weird red hue to the scenes I didn't care for.
Because the church is evil.
The church is evil. So yeah, some of the director's choice in this movie, most of the director's choices in this movie are bad. I didn't care for the direction. Cinematography, like you said, it's passable at times. Some of those wide angle crane shots of like panning up over like an aerial view, like looking out in the distance over to like say Nottingham from like Loxley Manor or whatever, which is clearly a CGI shot, but it looks okay. So yeah, I mean, there are certain scenes that that the cinematography is okay. The score, I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad. It's just I don't see it really. It doesn't really help the movie. I mean, it's kind of just there. I couldn't tell you any specific thing that stood out to me in the score. I mean, it is very modern for a movie that's supposed to be set in, I would guess,
before guns were invented.
I mean, some of the music sounds like, you would listen to it on the radio almost, which is really odd. Costuming in this movie is terrible. It is not time accurate at all.
Literally, I would not have been shocked if Ben Mendelsohn just walked in with blue jeans at one point.
I thought he was wearing blue jeans at one point in time with his freaking trench coat thing he had on. I'm like, I don't know what he's wearing. I know there were a couple scenes toward the beginning where Robin is like wearing what looks like a button-down shirt, like looks like he's wearing a button-down shirt and jeans. I'm like, I'd wear that. The outfit that Marion is wearing at the very end of the film when her and Robin lip lock before the credits roll looks like something I see girls wearing nowadays. I'm pretty sure I just saw a girl in the movie theater wearing that. One scene in particular that stood out to me with costuming is the big party scene after they invite the Cardinal. Everyone in that scene looks like they're straight out of the Hunger Games. I'm like, what did we just do? Did we just like go to the Hunger Games? Because it looks like Catching Fire and the scene where they go to the Capitol on their victory tour, and everyone's wearing like these really futuristic, like bright and colorful clothes with a lot of makeup and like weird stuff on their face. Like that's what it reminded me of. I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
That scene confused me too because from a story standpoint, because it's like I know the church is supposed to be corrupt, but why are all these church leaders and priests like partaking in like this? Basically, it's a sex party. I mean,
There's a bunch of gambling and sex going on, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I know they're correct, but I'm pretty sure they weren't that overt about it.
That's whatever. And yeah, I agree with you too on the effects. The effects are hit and miss. Explosions, I mean, I guess for what we get, I mean, toward the end, I guess, was where most of the explosions happen. They look
there was a lot of explosions throughout the movie.
decent, I guess. Effects of, like, say, arrows flying through things, they look okay at times. The CGI horses, you are for sure, that was definitely a standout when it came to CGI. It was terrible.
There's one scene in particular, I think they were, like, on a bridge or something, and, like, there was a hole in it, and, like...
Yeah, and this horse, like,
fell.
falls down into it.
It's like,
I mean, of course it's at night, because you're trying to cover up your bad CGI.
Yeah, of course.
Looked terrible. And I leaned over to Aaron, I'm like, no horses were harmed in the making of this film.
Unless they were CGI. No, lots of them were harmed.
So yeah, this movie is poorly made. I'll give it 1.5 stars.
And that's another problem I have with Robin Hood. You can kill people all day, but he starts killing horses at one point in this movie. I'm like, no.
My biggest problem with
Okay.
this movie, I will get into it in the overall section. Go ahead and give your overall.
Okay, overall, like I said, poorly written, poorly acted. The pace does make it somewhat bearable, and it is so bad it's funny at times. But it's a bad movie. So overall, I'll give it 2 severed Jamie Foxx limbs out of 5.
That's in reference to the fact that Jamie Foxx loses his hand in this movie. I don't know if Aaron mentioned that earlier in the review or not.
I did.
Did you?
I mean, I set myself up, Dylan. Things are really
I'm happy for you.
I can make movies, see?
My biggest problem with this movie is that it is poorly written and poorly made and poorly acted. If you are given $100 million budget to make a movie by Lionsgate Films and this is what you put out, that's bad. This movie, though it was released at a bad time, as the same weekend as Creed and Ralph Breaks the Internet, this movie has only made $48 million worldwide versus $100 million budget. Looked like a $100 budget. $100 million budget, and that's not including marketing, which is probably close to what, another 100 mil, maybe 80 to 100 mil, probably. So really, you're thinking the studio's probably into this movie for $200 million, and they've only made $48 million back.
That's bad.
That's bad. When you're given the talent that you have, the amount of money that you're given by this studio to make this movie, it should have been way better than it was.
So you're telling me we're not going to get to see the Dark Knight remake with Robin Hood?
I don't want to see that. Poorly written, poorly acted. It is somewhat enjoyable because of how bad it is. It's comedically bad at points, and I'll give it that.
I'll give it that.
I'll give it that.
I have to compliment.
So I'll give it 2 flaming arrows out of 5.
Flaming something.
Flaming pile of crap. I'm sorry. What was that?
Did you say that?
So let's talk about what we got coming up, man.
Coming up,
this terrible movie.
we have a movie that promises to be better, and Ralph Breaks the Internet next week.
Heard good things.
Hopefully, with that, we will come out with a Wreck-It Ralph bonus episode.
Yes.
We have to get on editing. We have this will be our 3rd backlogged episode. So
We're struggling.
but like I said, I'm almost done with school. We'll get there. We'll get caught up. The week after that, we have 2 films that we want to see. One will be good, and one will be bad. First is Mortal Engines from director Peter Jackson.
Mortal Engines.
The producers of The Lord of the Rings.
We have to stop London before it destroys us.
Oh God. Yeah, that's gonna be bad. We know it. We hope it'll be better than Robin Hood. I mean,
We'll
it's
find
a
out.
low hurdle, but I mean, maybe you can complete it.
Followed by
Movie I am very excited about: Clint Eastwood in The Mule.
this could be Clint Eastwood's last movie.
I mean, nobody said that, but it could be because he's old.
He's old, man.
He's very old.
Anyway,
But
that's what we got coming up. We're looking forward to The Mule and Ralph Breaks the Internet.
The Mule. So, I guess that's about all we have this episode.
Yep.
As always, you can find us at Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at DNA Film Wars.
Absolutely. If you have any questions or comments that you would like to talk to us specifically about, you can email us at DNAFilmWars, all lowercase, no space, at gmail.com.
We are on all major pod-catching services.
We are also up on YouTube. If you don't find one of those podcasting services or choose not to listen to one of those services, like I said, YouTube.
So, as always, I'm Aaron.
I'm Dylan, and we'll see you in the next one.
1,000 pounds for the man who brings me on!
We're all suspects now.
If we get caught, they will kill us all.
Really inspiring. Thanks.
You're not Robin of Locksley anymore.
kill Robin Hood.